Sienna pressed her ear against the locked door, her heart hammering so hard she could hear it echoing in her skull. The silence from the hallway beyond was suffocating, pressing down on her chest like a physical weight. 5 days. 5 goddamn days she'd been trapped in this room. But every morning, she woke up still locked in this room. Still trapped. Still running out of time. Footsteps. Sienna's breath caught in her throat. She backed away from the door slowly, her eyes darting around the room with desperate urgency. There had to be something. Anything she could use as a weapon. The bed was bolted to the floor. She'd already checked that on day 2 when she'd considered trying to barricade herself in. The dresser was too heavy to move. Solid oak that probably weighed more than she did even when she wasn't 4 months pregnant. The window had bars on it, thick iron bars that didn't budge no matter how hard she pulled. But on top of the dresser sat a decorative vase. Heavy ceramic, cream-colored with delicate blue flowers painted on the side. Maybe 8 inches tall. Definitely heavy enough to do damage. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Sienna grabbed the vase with both hands, testing its weight. Her palms were already sweating. Her whole body was shaking with adrenaline and fear, and 4 months of pregnancy hormones that made everything feel more intense, more raw, more desperate. She positioned herself behind the door, pressing her back against the wall, the vase raised above her head. Her pregnant belly pressed against her arms as she held the vase high. 4 months along now, still small enough that she could move quickly if she needed to, still small enough to fight. "Mommy's getting us out," she whispered to her baby, her voice barely audible even to herself. "I promise you, baby. I promise. We're getting out of here. Whatever it takes." The lock clicked. Sienna held her breath. The door swung open slowly. David Kim stepped inside, carrying a breakfast tray. Eggs, scrambled and still steaming. Toast with butter melting into the golden surface. A glass of orange juice. A cloth napkin folded neatly beside the plate. Like this was a bed and breakfast instead of a prison. His face was calm, almost pleasant. Like he was playing house. Like he wasn't actively planning to steal her baby in 2 months and make her think her child had died. "Good morning, Sienna," he said in that eerily normal voice that made her skin crawl. "Time to eat. The baby needs..." She swung with everything she had. Every ounce of strength in her body went into that swing. Every bit of fear and rage and desperation. 4 months of loving Taehyun. 4 months of believing he'd betrayed her. 4 days of being kidnapped. 5 days of being locked in this room. All of it went into that one swing. Crack. Welcome to Part 8, the second to last episode of Sienna and Taehyun's story. This is it. The rescue is happening right now. Taehyun is coming for her. But will he make it in time? And oh my God, what happens at the end of this episode will leave you speechless. If you've been following this journey from the beginning, thank you. Drop a comment telling me what time it is, where you are, and whether you're team Taehyun. And if you're new here, go back and watch from part 1 because you are not ready for what's about to happen. Hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications because the finale drops next and you do not want to miss how this story ends. Now let's get into it. The vase connected with the side of David's head with a sound that made Sienna's stomach turn. A wet, sickening crunch of ceramic against skull. David's eyes went wide with shock. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Then the breakfast tray slipped from his hands and crashed to the floor. Eggs splattered across the hardwood. The glass shattered, orange juice spreading in a sticky pool. The toast landed butter side down. He staggered sideways, his hand flying up to his head, where blood was already trickling from the wound. Thick, dark blood that matted in his hair and dripped down the side of his face. "You..." His voice came out slurred, confused. "You bitch." His knees buckled. He dropped to the floor, one hand pressed against his bleeding head, the other reaching out toward her, like he could still stop her. But Sienna was already moving. She ran past him toward the door, her heart hammering, her breath coming in short gasps that burned in her lungs. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely control them. The vase slipped from her fingers and shattered on the floor, ceramic shards scattering across the hardwood. She grabbed the door handle, pulled, locked. "No, no, 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 no!" The words came out as a desperate whimper. Behind her, she heard David groaning, heard him trying to stand. Sienna spun around. He was on his hands and knees now, blood dripping from his head onto the floor, mixing with the spilled orange juice. His eyes found hers, and even through the daze of being hit in the head, she could see the rage building in them. She dropped to her knees beside him. "Where are they?" Her hands searched his pockets frantically, fingers digging into his jacket, his pants, anywhere the keys might be. "Where are the keys?" He was groaning, trying to grab at her hands, but his movements were slow and uncoordinated. Blood was flowing more freely now, streaming down the side of his face and dripping from his chin. Sienna's hands closed around something cold and metal in his jacket pocket. Keys. A ring with 5 different keys attached. "You're not getting out." And David's voice was thick, slurred. His hand grabbed weakly at her wrist. Sienna yanked her hand free and scrambled to her feet. She ran back to the door, her pregnant belly making her movements slightly awkward, slightly off balance, but adrenaline was pushing her forward. Behind her, she heard David getting to his feet, heard him stumbling, knocking into the dresser, breathing heavily. Her hands shook as she tried the first key in the lock. Wrong one. "You're not going anywhere." His footsteps behind her now, unsteady but getting closer. Second key. Wrong one. "Sienna." His voice was stronger now, rage cutting through the daze. "Get back here right now." Third key. The lock clicked. It actually clicked. Sienna yanked the door open just as David's hand reached for her shoulder, his fingers brushing against her shirt. She threw herself through the doorway and slammed the door behind her with all her strength. She heard him crash into it from the other side, heard him cursing. She ran. Down the hallway, her feet pounding on the hardwood floor. Past closed doors she'd never seen opened. Past family photos on the walls of people she didn't recognize. David's family, probably. The family whose ranch he'd used to imprison her. The main entrance was at the end of the hall. A heavy wooden door with 2 locks, a deadbolt near the top, and a regular lock in the handle. "You have nowhere to go," David's voice echoed behind her. She could hear him coming down the hallway now, his footsteps heavy and angry. "We're in the middle of nowhere, just forest for miles." Sienna reached the front door. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the keys. She tried the first one in the deadbolt. Wrong. "The Huangs will find you." David's voice was getting closer. "You can't run from them. They have people everywhere." Second key. Wrong. She could hear him at the end of the hallway now. Could hear his ragged breathing. Could imagine the look on his blood-covered face. Third key in the deadbolt. It turned. Thank God, it turned. Now the handle lock. "Sienna, stop right now, or I swear to God." She jammed a key into the handle lock. It turned. She threw the door open and burst outside into the morning sunlight. The brightness hit her like a physical force. After 5 days in that dimly lit room with the curtains always closed, the morning sun was blinding. Sienna stumbled forward, one hand coming up to shield her eyes, the other instinctively protecting her pregnant belly. When her vision adjusted, her heart sank. Trees. Trees everywhere. Dense, endless forests surrounding the isolated ranch house in every direction. Tall pines and thick undergrowth that looked impenetrable. No roads visible, no driveways, no mailbox or power lines or any sign of civilization. Just trees stretching as far as she could see. David had been telling the truth. They really were in the middle of nowhere. Sienna's hand moved protectively to her belly. 4 months pregnant. How far could she run before exhaustion caught her? How long before David found her in those woods? And even if she got away from him, how would she find her way out? She didn't know which direction to go. Didn't know how many miles of forest surrounded this place. "What do I do?" she whispered to her baby, tears already streaming down her face. "Where do I go, sweetheart? How do I save us?" Then she heard it. A distant sound, faint at first, but growing louder. Thrum, 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 thrum. Helicopter blades. Sienna's head snapped up, her eyes searching the sky. Through the gaps in the trees, she could see it. A black helicopter, military style, descending toward the clearing in front of the ranch house. Her blood turned to ice. "No," she breathed. "No, no, 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 no." The Huangs. They'd come for her. David must have called them. Must have decided not to wait for the birth. They were going to take her right now. Take her baby right now. She'd never escape. Never see her family again. The helicopter landed in the clearing, its blades creating a windstorm that whipped her hair around her face and pressed her clothes against her body. The door slid open. A man stepped out, wearing black tactical gear, tall, broad-shouldered, moving with lethal purpose. Their eyes locked across the clearing. Time stopped. It was him. Tae-Hyun. Sienna couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't process what she was seeing. Was she hallucinating? Had she finally lost her mind from stress and fear? Was this what insanity looked like? Conjuring the one person she wanted most in the world right when she needed him? But then he shouted, his voice carrying across the clearing despite the noise of the helicopter. "Sienna!" That voice. God, that voice. She'd heard it in her dreams every night for 4 months. Heard it telling her he loved her, that she was his, that nothing could keep them apart. "Tae-Hyun?" Her own voice came out as a broken sob. He was running toward her now, and suddenly her legs were moving too. She was running toward him, her pregnant belly making her gait awkward, tears streaming down her face, her whole body shaking with sobs and relief and disbelief. They collided in the middle of the clearing with enough force to knock the breath out of her. His arms wrapped around her and lifted her completely off the ground despite her pregnant belly. He held her so tightly she couldn't breathe, but she didn't care. She wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face in his chest and sobbed. "How?" The word came out muffled against his tactical vest. "How did you find me? How are you here?" His face was buried in her hair. She could feel him shaking, could hear the break in his voice when he spoke. "I told you from the beginning, Sienna. From the very first day." His arms tightened around her. "You're mine. No matter where you go, no matter how far you run, I will always find you. Always." She pulled back just enough to look at his face. Her hands came up to touch his cheeks, his jaw, his lips, making sure he was real. Making sure this wasn't another cruel dream. "But how? How did you?" He pulled out his phone with one hand, keeping his other arms wrapped firmly around her waist like he was afraid she'd vanish if he let go. On the screen was a GPS tracking app showing a detailed map. A blinking red dot marked their exact location. "The ring," he said quietly. "The engagement ring I gave you in Seoul. I had a tracker embedded in it." Sienna's hand flew to her chest. The ring. She'd kept it in her bag all this time. Even after she'd seen those photos of him with Misu. Even after she'd believed with absolute certainty that he'd betrayed her. That he'd gotten that woman pregnant. That he'd moved on and forgotten about her. She'd carried that ring with her every single day. "I couldn't throw it away," she whispered, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "Even after everything, even after those photos, even thinking I couldn't." He kissed her, deep and desperate and full of 4 months of separation. 4 months of believing they'd never see each other again. 4 months of grief and longing and love that had refused to die, no matter how many lies tried to kill it. When they finally broke apart, both of them breathing hard, Sienna became aware of another figure approaching from the helicopter. "Dad?" Kwame Johnson ran toward them, and Sienna threw herself into his arms, nearly knocking him over with the force of her embrace. "I called him," Kwame said, his voice rough with emotion. "I knew he was the only one who could pull up the earth for you. He held his daughter at arm's length, his hands on her shoulders, his eyes scanning her face and body checking for injuries. Are you hurt? Did he hurt you? The baby? We're okay. We're both okay. Sienna's hand moved to her belly. Dad, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for trusting him. For not listening to you when… Shh. Stop. Kwame pulled her close again. This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault, baby girl. You hear me? None of it. It's all your mother's fault. Around them, Sienna became aware of black SUVs pulling up from different directions. Men in tactical gear emerged, moving with military precision as they surrounded the property. These were Taehyun's men, she realized, his private security team. Taehyun spoke into a radio clipped to his vest. Secure the perimeter. I want every exit covered. No one gets in or out without my authorization. Bang. The gunshot shattered the moment like glass. Everyone froze. Sienna's head whipped around toward the ranch house. David stood in the doorway. Blood still streamed from the gash on his head, where she'd hit him with the vase. His nose was swollen and clearly broken, blood covering the lower half of his face. He looked like something out of a horror movie, and in his shaking hands, he held a gun pointed directly at Sienna. You ruined everything. His voice was raw, cracking with rage and desperation. The plan? My payment. $5 million? Gone because you couldn't just cooperate. Now, before Sienna could even process what was happening, Tae-Hyun moved. He stepped in front of her so fast it was like he'd teleported, his body completely blocking her from David's line of fire. One arm went out to the side, pushing her further behind him. His other hand moved to his hip, where she could see a weapon holstered. If you want her, Taehyun said, his voice deadly calm despite the gun pointed at them. You go through me first. David's hand was shaking badly. The gun wavered in his grip. You don't understand. The Hwangs will kill me if I don't deliver. They'll torture me. You were dead the moment you touched her. Taehyun's voice was ice. The Hwangs can't do anything to you that's worse than what I'm going to do. You're just one man. David's voice was rising, cracking. The Hwangs are everywhere. They have connections, power, money, and I have all of that too. Plus, something you don't have. Taehyun took a step forward. A reason to destroy them all. Every single one. And I'm going to start with you. David's eyes were wild now, darting between Taehyun, Sienna, the armed men surrounding the property. A cornered animal with nothing left to lose. His finger moved to the trigger. Kwame saw it first. Saw David's hand tensing. Saw his fingers starting to squeeze. No! Everything happened in slow motion. Kwame threw himself forward, his body colliding with Tae-Hyun and Sienna just as David fired. The gunshot was deafening. Bang! The bullet hit Kwame square in the chest. He stumbled backward from the impact, his eyes going wide with shock. His hand came up to his chest, where blood was already blooming across his shirt, spreading rapidly like ink in water. Then his knees buckled. He fell. Dad! Sienna's scream tore from her throat with such force, it felt like it ripped something inside her. Dad! No! Daddy! She tried to run to him, but Tae-Hyun grabbed her, held her back, kept his body between her and David, who still had the gun. Let me go! That's my father! Dad! Daddy! Please! Kwame lay on the ground, blood pooling beneath him, spreading across the dirt. His chest rose and fell in short, rapid gasps. His eyes were open, staring up at the sky. Taehyun's men rushed forward, surrounding Kwame. One of them, a medic Sienna realized, dropped to his knees beside her father and immediately started applying pressure to the wound. He's alive! The medic shouted. But barely! We need medical evacuation now! Sienna was screaming, sobbing, trying to break free from Taehyun's grip. Let me go to him, please. That's my dad. I need to… Stay behind me, Taehyun said, his voice tight. He's still armed. David. Sienna had almost forgotten about him in the horror of seeing her father shot. She looked up through her tears to see David still standing there, the gun now hanging limply at his side. He was staring at Kwame's body on the ground with an expression of shock, like he couldn't quite believe what he'd just done. Taehyun saw it too. Saw David's moment of distraction. Saw his opportunity. He released Sienna and moved. David realized what was happening a second too late. He tried to raise the gun, tried to aim, but Taehyun was already there. He grabbed David's wrist and twisted hard. The gun fell from David's hand and hit the ground. David tried to run. He made it exactly 3 steps before Taehyun caught him. What happened next was brutal. Taehyun tackled David to the ground with enough force that Sienna heard the air rush out of David's lungs. Then Taehyun was on top of him, his fist connecting with David's face. Once, twice, 3 times. You. Hurt? What's? Mine. Blood exploded from David's nose, already broken from when Sienna kicked him, now completely destroyed. His head snapped to the side with each impact. He tried to fight back, tried to throw Taehyun off, but it was useless. Taehyun pulled a knife from his boot. The blade flashed in the sunlight. Then he drove it down into David's shoulder. David's scream echoed across the clearing, raw and agonized. Taehyun leaned close to David's ear, his voice low enough that only David could hear him. This is so you remember who you crossed. So every time you look at this scar, you remember that you tried to steal from Lee Taehyun, and you failed. He yanked the knife out. David screamed again. Taehyun grabbed David's head with both hands and slammed it into the ground. Hard. Again. 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 Sienna had never seen him like this. Had never seen this side of him. The violence, the rage, the absolute brutality. This was the man his father had tried to turn him into. The monster that lived inside him. Usually controlled, usually leashed. But not now. Not when someone had hurt what was his. Finally, David went limp. Unconscious, but still breathing. Taehyun stood, his chest heaving, his hands covered in David's blood. He looked at his men. Tie him up. He's coming with us. What should we do with him, boss? Bring him. Tie him to one of the SUVs. 2 of his men dragged David's unconscious body toward one of the vehicles. They tied a thick rope around his ankle and attached it to the back bumper. When the SUV drove out of here, David would be dragged behind it through the dirt and rocks and mud. No mercy. Taehyun turned back to where the medic was working frantically on Kwame. How is he? BP's dropping fast. We're losing him. We need to get him to a hospital now. Get him on the helicopter. Move! They loaded Kwame onto a stretcher. Sienna was beside him immediately, grabbing his hand, leaning over him. Dad! Dad, please! Stay with me. Please don't leave me. Kwame's eyes fluttered open for just a moment. They found Sienna's face. His lips moved, trying to form words, but no sound came out. Then his eyes closed again. No! Daddy! Daddy! Open your eyes. Please. We need to move now, the medic shouted. Every second counts. They carried the stretcher toward the helicopter at a run. Sienna stayed beside it, refusing to let go of her father's hand even as they loaded him into the helicopter. Taehyun helped her climb in, then followed. He wrapped his arm around her shoulders and pulled her close as the helicopter lifted off. Below them, one of the SUVs was already moving, heading back down the forest trail toward the main road. David's body dragged behind it through the dirt, bouncing over rocks and tree roots. Taehyun watched with cold satisfaction. Inside the helicopter, the medic was working frantically on Kwame. He's crashing. I need to intubate. Do it. Whatever you need to do, just keep him alive. Sienna watched in horror as they inserted a tube down her father's throat. Watched as they hooked him up to monitors that beeped urgently. Watched as the medic's hands moved with practiced efficiency, but couldn't miss the worry in his eyes. This is my fault, she sobbed, her hand still clutching her father's limp one. All my fault. He took that bullet for me. He saved my life, and now he's going to make it, Taehyun said firmly, though she could hear the uncertainty in his voice. He saved us. He's a hero, and heroes don't die. They can't. You don't know that. You can't promise that. I know your father. I know what kind of man he is. Taehyun's arm tightened around her. He's not going to leave you. Not now. Not when he just got you back. Sienna wanted to believe him. Desperately wanted to believe him. But all she could see was the blood. So much blood soaking through the bandages. So much blood that had poured out of her father's chest. The helicopter pilot's voice crackled over the radio. ETA to hospital, 12 minutes. 12 minutes. 12 minutes while her father's life hung in the balance. 12 minutes to pray that it wouldn't be too late. 7,000 miles away in Seoul, at the exact moment the helicopter was racing toward the hospital in Maryland, Lee Dong-Wook woke up in his private study with his head pounding like someone was driving nails into his skull. His mouth tasted like old wine and regret. He blinked against the morning sunlight streaming through the windows, trying to piece together the previous night. The wine. So much wine. And something warm beside him. He looked down. Mi-soo lay against him, still asleep, still partially undressed. Her hair was mussed, her makeup smeared. Empty wine bottles littered the floor around the chair they'd had sex. "Shit," Dong-Wook muttered, his voice hoarse. The door opened. Lee Yeon-soo stood in the doorway, his wife, the woman he'd been married to for 30 years. Time stopped. Her face went through a rapid journey of emotions that Dong-Wook watched with growing horror. Shock, her eyes widening, her hand flying to her mouth. Pain, a flinch like she'd been physically struck. Rage, her jaw clenching, her hands curling into fists. Then something else settled over her features. Something cold and calculating that made his blood run cold. She smiled. "Dong-Wook!" Both he and Mi-soo jolted fully awake. Mi-soo scrambled to cover herself with her dress. Dong-Wook's face went white with panic, his hands fumbling to button his shirt. "Yeon-soo? This isn't..." She held up one hand, palm out, stopping him mid-sentence. Then she laughed. A cold, bitter sound that made the hair on the back of his neck stand up. "This isn't what I think?" She was still smiling that horrible smile. "Is that what you were going to say, husband? That this isn't exactly what it looks like? Please, let me explain." Mi-soo, adjusting her dress with infuriating calm, looked at Yeon-soo with something like pity. Maybe it's time she knew the truth, Dong-Wook. Don't you think? "Shut up!" Dong-Wook roared at her, his panic turning to rage. "Just shut your mouth." But Mi-soo was looking at Yeon-soo now, her head tilted slightly. That same pitying expression on her face. Did you really think he was faithful? With you? All these years, did you really believe that? I said shut up. Why? She deserves to know. Mi-soo's voice was almost gentle. Your husband has been sleeping with me for 2 years, Mrs. Lee. Every week, sometimes twice a week, sometimes in hotel rooms, sometimes in his office. Once, actually, in this very study while you were upstairs sleeping. Yeon-soo's face remained eerily calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that comes before a hurricane. I was actually waiting for this, she said quietly. Silence fell like a hammer. Dong-Wook stared at his wife. What? I was waiting for this. Yeon-soo gestured elegantly at the scene before her. The rumpled clothes, the empty wine bottles, the evidence of betrayal. I needed proof, you see. Hard, undeniable proof. Evidence I could use that wouldn't leave any room for doubt or explanation. She pulled out her phone. I started suspecting something about 3 years ago. Little things at first. You coming home late. Unexplained charges on credit cards. Strange phone calls you'd take in another room. Her voice was conversational, almost casual. But you were smart. Careful. I could never prove anything. Until her. She looked at Mi-soo. When she came to our house, claiming to be pregnant with Taehyun's child, I watched your reaction. The way you looked at her, the way you couldn't quite hide your panic. And I knew. Mi-soo actually looked uncomfortable now. I believe my son, of course, when he said the child wasn't his. Taehyun doesn't lie to me, and he loves Sienna to his bones to hurt her. Yeon-soo's eyes never left Mi-soo's face. But I had to keep her close. What do you want? Dong-Wook's voice was barely above a whisper. Divorce. The word dropped like a stone. and everything you own. Your businesses, your properties, your money, your precious empire that you built on blood and lies. All of it, in exchange for me not releasing evidence of your affair. You can't. I can, and I will. Yeonsu's smile was as sharp as broken glass. By the time I'm done with you, you'll have nothing. You'll be exactly what you deserve to be, alone and powerless. Yeonsu, please. I've endured years of being the perfect wife. Her voice rose slightly, the first crack in her calm facade. Playing the obedient spouse while you did whatever you wanted, while you built your criminal empire, while you slept with younger women and came home smelling like their perfume. But I'm done. Done being silent. Done being ignored. Done pretending I don't know what kind of monster I married. She moved toward the door. So you have two choices, Dong-Wook. You can sign the divorce papers and give me everything peacefully. Or I can release everything to the media, the affairs, the illegal business dealings, all of it, and you can go to prison and lose everything anyway. Your choice. This is extortion. This is justice. She paused at the door, looking at Misu one more time. And I'm more certain than ever that my son isn't responsible for whatever you're carrying inside you. She left. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like a gunshot in the silence. Dongwuk stood there, his entire world crumbling around him. His business was already failing from the systematic attacks he couldn't trace or stop. His wife was divorcing him and taking everything. His son hated him, had refused to speak to him since the day he'd thrown Sienna out. And all of it, was because of the woman standing beside him. He turned to Misu slowly. Pure rage flooded through him like poison. This is your fault. His voice was low, shaking. All of this is your fault. My fault? Misu backed away from the fury in his eyes. You're the one who... He grabbed her by the hair. Misu screamed, her hands flying up to try to pry his fingers loose, but his grip was like iron. You came into my life and ruined everything. He dragged her toward the desk. My business, my marriage, my son. Let go of me. You're insane. He slammed her head down onto the desk. The sound was horrible, a wet thunk that seemed to echo in the room. You... Slam. Destroyed. Slam. Everything. Slam. Misu was screaming, trying to fight back, but he was bigger, stronger, fueled by months of pent-up rage and fear, and the feeling of his entire life falling apart around him. Slam. 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 Blood on the desk now, blood on his hands, blood everywhere. He couldn't stop, didn't want to stop, wanted to destroy the thing that had destroyed him. Slam. Slam. Finally, his grip loosened. Misu's body crumpled to the floor like a puppet with its strings cut. She lay completely still. Blood pooled around her head, thick and dark, spreading across the expensive hardwood floor. Dong-Wook stood there, staring at his hands. They were shaking, covered in her blood. No, he whispered. No, 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 no. He dropped to his knees beside her, his hands hovering over her body, not quite touching. Misu? Misu, wake up. Nothing. He reached out with shaking fingers and touched her neck, feeling for a pulse. Nothing. No. Misu, wake up! His voice rose to a shout. Wake up! But she was gone. He'd killed her. The private jet's wheels hit the tarmac in Maryland with a jolt that barely registered to the people inside. Kwame Johnson lay on the stretcher, unconscious, the monitors beside him beeping frantically as the medic continued working to keep him stable. Blood had soaked through layer after layer of bandages. His breathing was shallow, labored even with the tube down his throat. The moment the plane doors opened, paramedics rushed in with a wheeled stretcher. They transferred Kwame quickly, efficiently, and urgent. GSW to the chest. Estimated blood loss significant. Patient is crashing. Sienna was beside her father immediately, her hand gripping his, as they wheeled him toward the waiting ambulance. Her face was streaked with tears, her hair wild, her clothes still dusty from the ranch. Dad, please, stay with me. You have to stay with me. Tae-Hyun was right behind her, one hand on her shoulder, supporting her as they ran across the tarmac. They loaded Kwame into the ambulance. Sienna climbed in after him, refusing to let go of his hand. Taehyun followed. The door slammed shut. Sirens blared. They raced through the Maryland streets toward the hospital, the siren clearing traffic ahead of them. Inside, the paramedic was shouting into his radio, relaying information to the hospital. Male, approximately 50 years old, GSW to left chest, possible damage to lung and major vessels. BP 70/40 and dropping, heart rate 130 and climbing. ETA 3 minutes. Sienna watched in horror as they worked on her father. Watched as they inserted more IVs, pumping fluids into him to replace the blood he'd lost. Watched as the monitors showed numbers that even she knew were dangerously low. "This is my fault," she sobbed, her hand clutching his limp one. "All of this is my fault. If I'd never trusted David. If I'd just listened when you and Mom tried to warn me. If I'd—" "Stop." Taehyun's voice was firm. He wrapped his arm around her shoulders. "This is David Kim's fault. This is the Hwang's fault. And this is my father's fault for starting all of this. But it's not yours. You hear me? Not yours." The ambulance pulled up to the emergency entrance of the best hospital in Maryland. The doors flew open before they'd even fully stopped. Doctors and nurses swarmed the ambulance. "GSW to the chest. He's crashing. We need to get him to OR now." They pulled the stretcher out and started running toward the emergency room entrance. Sienna tried to follow, still holding her father's hand, running alongside the stretcher. "Dad, I'm here. I'm right here with you." They burst through the emergency room doors. More staff joined them, all of them moving with controlled urgency that somehow made everything more terrifying. "Get me a chest tube. He's got a hemothorax. BP's dropping, 60/30. He's not going to make it to OR at this rate. We need to stabilize him here." They wheeled him into a trauma bay. A nurse gently but firmly pulled Sienna's hand away from her father's. "Ma'am, you need to stay here. Let the doctors work." "No, that's my father. I need to—" "Ma'am, the best thing you can do for him right now is let us do our jobs." The nurse's voice was kind but firm. "Please, wait here." Another nurse was already guiding Sienna backward, out of the trauma bay. Taehyun's hands were on her shoulders, supporting her, keeping her from collapsing. The last thing Sienna saw before the trauma bay, doors swung shut, was her father on the table, surrounded by people in scrubs, and so much blood. So much blood everywhere. The doors closed. Sienna stood there, staring at those closed doors, and felt her legs give out. Tae-Hyun caught her before she hit the floor. He guided her to a chair in the waiting area and sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders as she buried her face in her hands and sobbed. "He saved my life," she choked out between sobs. "He took that bullet for me, for us. And now he's going to make it," Taehyun said, though his voice lacked the certainty she needed to hear. "He has to make it. You can't know that. You can't promise that. I know your father. I know what kind of man he is." Taehyun's jaw clenched. "He's not going to leave you. Not now. Not when he just got you back. He's too stubborn for that." Sienna wanted to believe him. Desperately, achingly wanted to believe that her father would survive this. That he'd wake up and meet his grandson. That they'd have the chance to be a family again. Minutes crawled by. 10 minutes. 20. 30. The waiting room clock ticked endlessly, each second feeling like an hour. Then the automatic doors at the entrance slid open, and Dr. Zainab Johnson rushed in. Her face was streaked with tears. Sienna looked up at her mother. All the betrayal came flooding back. All the pain of discovering what her mother had done. The deal with Dong-Wook. The money she'd taken. The photos she'd forwarded to break Sienna's heart. She turned away. "Sienna, please." Zainab's voice broke. "I know you hate me right now. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But please, baby, Just, where's your father? He's in surgery. Sienna's voice was flat, emotionless. He got shot, took a bullet that was meant for me. Zainab's hand flew to her mouth. Oh God, no. Because of David Kim. The man you thought was so safe, so perfect, so much better than Taehyun. Sienna's voice was sharp now, cutting. The man you pushed me toward because you made a deal with a criminal. Sienna, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I made terrible mistakes. I thought I was protecting you, but I was wrong. So wrong about everything. You don't get to do this right now. Sienna stood up, Taehyun rising with her. You don't get to ask for forgiveness while Dad is in there fighting for his life because of choices you made. Baby, please. No. Sienna's voice was ice. Just, no. Not now. Not today. Zainab stood there, her whole body shaking with sobs, and then slowly walked to a chair on the opposite side of the waiting room. She sat down heavily, buried her face in her hands, and cried. More minutes crawled by. An hour. 2 hours. The red lights above the trauma bay doors stayed on. No one came out to give them updates. No one told them anything. Taehyun held Sienna the entire time, his presence the only thing keeping her from completely falling apart. He didn't say much. There wasn't much to say, but he was there, solid, real. The anchor she desperately needed. Finally, after what felt like days, but was actually 3 hours and 47 minutes, the trauma bay doors opened. A doctor emerged, still in his blood-stained scrubs. His face was grave, exhausted. Everyone jumped to their feet. Sienna, Taehyun, and Zainab all rushed toward him. Family of Kwame Johnson? That's us! Sienna's voice came out as a desperate gasp. Is he okay? Is my father okay? Please, tell me he's okay. The trauma was extensive. The blood loss was severe. His body has shut down to protect itself. The doctor met their eyes directly. We've had to place him in a medically induced coma. The world tilted. A coma? Sienna's voice came out as barely a whisper. What does that mean? Will he wake up? Shit. Kwame is in a coma. He took a bullet for Sienna, and now he might not wake up. And did you see? Dong-Wook just killed Misu. He killed her in a rage. What will happen now? Is this his end? Who else underrated Taehyun's mother? She was waiting for proof. She's taking everything from him. And Taehyun still has David. What is he planning to do with him? Comment right now. Will Kwame survive? Will he wake up from the coma? What will happen to Dong-Wook? Will David talk? Is this really the end? This is part 8. The finale is next. Part 9 is the final episode where everything gets resolved. Will Sienna and Taehyun finally get their happy ending, or will more tragedy strike? Will Kwame wake up to meet his grandson, or will Sienna lose her father? What will happen to Dongwuk, prison, or worse? Smash that like button if you're devastated right now. Subscribe and turn on all notifications because the finale is coming and you cannot miss it. Drop a comment. What time is it where you are? Team Taehyun forever? Do you think there will be a happy ending? The finale drops next. This has been an insane journey, and I can't wait to share the ending with you. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss it.